Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U. Tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Jean Mackey. I'm your host, Jean Mackey. These are interactive webinars brought to you by Information and Technology Services. And if you're having any audio or video problems during the live webinar, let us know in the chat pod. If it's not on our end, we can offer some tips. And if you're watching the YouTube captioned recording, check out the description field for a link to a resource doc. If you do need an accommodation to participate in a live episode, just give us a little bit of a heads up and we'll make it work. So today we've got Christopher Gardner from ITS Information Quest, and he has promised to give us something approximating 50 Tableau tricks.
Thank you, Jean.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. All right, I'm going to get us started here. This presentation was something that's been done at Tableau at the Tableau conferences for several years. I decided to watch a few of those videos and see if I could take some of the key tips from each of those videos and put them into a presentation for the U of M campus. So I'm going to dive right in and get started since we have a lot of tips. Hopefully everybody can see my desktop, see my Tableau interface.
Just put stuff in the chat pod and I'll relay the questions to Chris.
All right, so if you have any questions or comments, please let Jean know and she'll pass them on to me. All right, so starting off at the beginning, colored tabs. The first tip for you, you can add color to all of your tabs in Tableau. The easiest way to do this is to right-click on the tab, go to color, and assign the color to the tab. This is especially useful if you want to remember which dashboards you want to publish or not publish. When you go to publish your workbooks, it'll actually show the colors from the tabs on the screen when you look at the sheets. So you can see the colors right here next to each one. It'll make it very easy to identify which sheets you want to publish. That is tip number one. I'm not going to publish right now. Tip number two, you can quickly add data to Tableau. Rather than going to the data screen and trying to find your Excel file that you want to put up there, you can actually browse in a window and find your Excel file or whatever it is you want to connect to. In this case, I'm going to find the helmet data, helmetdata.csv, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it right in Tableau. When you do that, it'll automatically take you to the data screen and it'll automatically import the first tab in the spreadsheet so you can start working with your data right away. The next tip, tip three, you can copy data from the preview pane. So up in the upper left-hand corner in your data, there is a View Data tab. You click this button, you can quickly see the data in your data set. You can click this upper left corner and highlight the entire data set, copy it, and paste it right into Excel or whatever software you want to paste it into. It'll do it in just a minute once my computer catches up to me. I'm going to pause this for a minute and go back to the display, but you can copy everything out to Excel. You can also copy data from a visualization. If you have a visualization that you have created in Tableau and you would like to see the data for it, you can copy the data. Simply click somewhere in your visualization, hit Control-C to copy it, Command-C to copy it on a Mac, go into Excel, I'm going to create a new sheet, and I'm going to paste it in, and it pastes all the data from that visualization into a spreadsheet so you can quickly examine it. Number five, how to quickly add a calculation. So you've got a lovely visualization and you want to know what happens if the profit doubles. You can quickly add a calculation to any pill on your dashboard by double-clicking it and adding the calculation to it, ×2 in this case. When I do that, it automatically doubles the sum of the profit. So we can look at what it is if it was twice as much. Continuing on that, we have our next tip. We've created this lovely sum of profit ×2. I want to make this a field that I can use elsewhere in my dashboard or in my workbook. If you hold down the Control key, click and drag the pill over, you should be able to add it over here if it'll let me. I'll see if I can get it to do it here. You should be able to add the field to your list of menu values and it'll save it as an actual calculation over here on the left-hand side for use elsewhere. Number 7, you've built a lovely dashboard, but you would like to keep these charts separated a little bit. You want a line between them. There is no actual line feature in Tableau, but you can create one on your own. Easiest way to do it is to grab a blank, drag it in, and drop it in between your two dashboards. When you do that, you'll want to go to the layout and set your padding to 0 all the way around. Once you do that, the size of this will be whatever you set it to be. In this case, I'm going to set it to 5 pixels. I can then go into the background color, set it to black, and I have a nice dividing line between my two visualizations on my dashboard. Tip number 8. Do you have any questions while I'm working on this? We're going to keep going. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat pod and Jean will ask them to me. Tip number 8, you can duplicate any tab in Tableau, and you can also duplicate it as a crosstab. The first thing you'd want to do is if you duplicate it, this allows you to edit a secondary version of it without screwing up the first one. If you wanted to try some stuff without screwing up the first one, right-click, duplicate it, and you can mess around with this one without worrying about the first one being ruined. The other thing you can do is right-click and duplicate as crosstab. This allows you to view a crosstab version, there it is, of your data. Quickly and easily, you can see all the data in here and verify that your numbers are correct. Number 9, this visualization is using measure names and measure values. I have my profit, my sales, my discount, profit ratio, and quantity, and I have as measure names up here. My measure values are all listed over here. I've added color to the measure values, and what you'll notice is because sales has such a high value here, all the other stuff is washed out, especially the percentages because they're so low. They all end up just being the gray. You can actually go under the menu for measure values when it's a color and use separate legends. And it will color each of your columns individually by that color and do the gradient within that color. So there's blue for profit, purple for sales, red for discount. It's a very clever way to have multiple colors on the same visualization. You don't have to do multiple colors on just measures. You can also do it on dimensions. So in this case, I have my product category, which is on color, and it's split up into product subcategories. You can go under product subcategories, when it's a detail, click on the detail icon and switch it to a color. Now it will color each of the subcategories by a shade of the color of the primary category. So all my subcategories within furniture are a shade of blue. It makes for a very large legend, but it's a way where you can quickly split things up and still keep them kind of grouped together. Nested bars. So a lot of times what you want to see is how two things compare for around the same month. So I want to see how 2017 compares to 2018 for January. I can kind of do that, but it's hard to see. But I also want to keep the trend between between 2017 and 2018 on the same chart. One of the ways to do this is to stack the bars. So what we're going to do is we're going to take year, and this is actually kind of a tip itself. If you hold down the control key, you can click and drag and make a copy of it onto size. And what you'll notice is it took my 2017 and it shrunk it down. I'm going to go up to my analysis menu under stack marks and turn off the stacking so that they're no longer stacked. This makes both of my bars start at the origin and go up from there. This is called a bullet chart. What this allows me to do is I can now see the trend in 2017 and I can also see the trend in 2018, but I can compare the two within each month and see how they compare. Nice, easy way to do that. We use this very commonly when we're working on admission data, when we're looking at admission selectivity and yield. Any questions so far? No questions so far? I'm going to keep moving. All right, dual axes. Right now we're looking at profit and sales over the past few years. What if I wanted to see them on the same chart? Well, I can do this. To do this, you simply right-click on the axis and say dual axis. This will put sales on one side, profit on the other, and put the chart on the same visualization. But there's a catch. what you'll notice is it looks like our profit is about the same as sales, but that's because our profit legend, our profit axis, has a much different scale than our sales axis. So what we need to do is right-click on the profit and synchronize the axes. Now there is a caveat to this. If you ever have a problem where you cannot get dual axes or synchronized axes to work, what you will need to do is make sure that both of the measures are of the same format. They both either have to be integer or they both have to be decimal. One cannot be one and one cannot be the other, otherwise it will not work. They have to be the same format. So you can do dual axes that way. Next, trend lines. In this case, I have all of my furniture, my office supplies, my technology plotted out here on a visualization, and I have a trend line for each one of these. To add my trend line, I went to Analytics on the tab over here and added a trend line. But let's say I don't want a trend line for each of the colors. I want a trend line for overall. You can do that. You can right-click on the trend line on any of them, edit the trend lines, and you can actually turn off trend line per color, and it will create one trend line for the entire data set. It's a nice, easy way to switch things up when you have multiple details on one visualization. This next one is a little bit involved, but it's a very cool trick. Right now, what we're looking at is the profit ratio for a particular month and year. In this case, I think we're looking at, let's just look at September 2017. I want to look at this day over day, and I want to see it in calendar format, and you can actually do this. So let's take our order date, and instead of left-click dragging, I'm going to right-click drag, and I'm going to drop it on columns. In the columns, I want the day of the week. So I want day of the week, weekday. You say OK. So now I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday across. The next thing I need to do is drag order date again, right-click up to rows, and I want it to be the week of the month, week. I'm going to say OK, and you've actually created yourself a little calendar with the profit ratio on each and every single day. Now this gets a little bit more interesting because we can add additional months. Now when I add an additional month, it's going to average it over these over the 2 months for each of the days. Well, that's not exactly what I want. What I need to do now is add a month to my rows and say OK. And now I have September going down like this and October down here. If you want to see the day of the month, you can drag order date onto the label, set it to the day of the order date, and it'll put the numerical day of the month on each of the days. You'll have to do a little bit of trickery to get some of the blank days in here. We have some blank Thursdays in here, but there are ways to do that, and I would suggest you look online for instructions on how to do that. But it's a quick and easy way to create a calendar in Tableau. Okay, we've made our lovely calendar. Let's do a little bit of cleanup. So if you hover over it, you can see the weekday, the week, the month, and everything that we have in this visualization. But let's say we don't want all that information in here. We don't need the week of the order date in there. I don't want that showing in my tooltip. I could go into the tooltip and edit it and remove it, but there's a faster way. If I go up to the week of the order date, click on the pull down, I can actually tell it to not appear in the tooltip, and it'll go away. It's a quick and easy way to clean up your tooltips and keep the Tableau format if you'd like. I'm going to pause real quick. Any questions while I'm moving forward? All right, going to keep going. Okay, we have a lovely map here, and I'm looking at the sum of profit for each of the postal codes within the map. But one of the things you'll notice is that all of my big data is hard to see because it's hidden behind some of these other points. I want to bring those points up to the front. How can I do that? Well, the easiest way to do that is to create a calculation based on your profit and set it to the absolute value. So I've already done this, and I want to show you this calculation. It's simply the absolute value of the profit. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to sort the postal codes by a particular field, the field that's the absolute value of profit, and I'm going to do it descending. What that will do is it'll take all my very, very big values and all my very, very small values and bring them to the front. Now, when I look at my map, I can see all the very, very big and very, very small values right up front. Very cool trick. This next trick was very cool. I found this accidentally and I thought it was very neat. You can actually sort things very quickly in Tableau. Now, normally you can play around with sorts and try to get things organized, but there's actually a faster way to do it. I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm going to drag sales over and make a copy of it, just like that. I'm going to use our earlier trick to turn this into the negative sales. Okay, got that. And now I've got negative sum of sales, and I'm just going to quickly turn this into a discrete number. Okay, and then I am going to, that did not work. On the left dimension you want to start with, and then I'm going to sort. I don't know why that didn't work. I'm going to try that one more time. Oh, that time it worked. I must have had a copy of it. There we go. Negative sum of sales. And I'm going to make that discrete. And I'm going to put it right in front of category. There we go. So wherever I move it is where it's going to sort it by. So if I move it over here, it's going to sort it within each, sort the states within each category. If I move it over here, it's going to do a sort within each whole region. And if I do it over here, it'll sort it overall. So you can kind of see it's quickly and easy way to sort things out. If you don't want to see it, obviously you can hide this, but it'll still work as far as the filtering. Oops, I didn't hide it. There we go. Oh, hide the whole thing. There we go. You can hide it and play with that a little bit more. I'm going to move on because I need to keep going. Now that we've done that, I'm going to take this to the next step. I'm going to write a series of calculations over on the side here, sort all, sort by category, and sort by region. And if I look in here, I have a parameter called sort within, and it's right down here. Let me show you what's in it. Got all, region, and category are the options in this parameter. I have this parameter turned on, it's right over here. And then I created these calculations. Sort by all says if the sort within value is all, then show the negative sum of sales, otherwise null. Likewise with category, same thing. If it's set to category, show that else 0. I then put these calculations in between each part. Now I've given control to my user. Where it's set to all, it'll sort them by all. If I sort it by region, it'll sort it within the region. If I sort it by category, it will sort it within each category. Yes, we have a question.
Steve wants to know if your workbook will be available.
Yes, I can make my workbook available, definitely. Okay. Yep, I will do that.
Okay.
All right, we're going to continue on. 19, move the axes. A lot of times what we find is we want one of the axes to be on the top. So right now I've got my axes down here at the bottom. I want to move it up to the top. If you go up to Analysis and go to Table Layout and go to Advanced, there's a box right here that says Show Innermost Level at the bottom of the view, and there's a vertical axis. If you uncheck this, apply it, it'll actually move your axes up to the top. A quick way to get your axes moved up to the top. The next one is very popular with our financial people. You can actually change your shipping date or any other date to a fiscal year. Find the date in the left-hand side, right-click on it, go to Default Properties, Fiscal Year Start, and you can change when the fiscal year starts. So if we want to make it July, we can make it July. And you'll notice all of our years now say fiscal year from 2015 to 2019. Any other questions so far? All right, we're going to keep going. Change the discrete month's appearance. So right here, we've got all of our months in here, but if we wanted to put this in a dashboard, maybe we want those months to be a little smaller so we have more room. You can do this very quickly by right-clicking on the month label, formatting it, going over to here, and dates is set to null right now. I am going to set it to abbreviation, and now I have a lot more room for my visualization on my dashboard. You can do the same thing with continuous months. So we have continuous charts here, and the months are so big you can barely see them. but you can change the way they look as well. You'll notice up here that month is continuous. If you right click on here and you say format, and the dates right now look like MMMM. If you take out one of those M's, it'll actually turn everything into an abbreviation for you. So you can quickly shorten down the name of all the months on a continuous month as well. Next tip. Now we're working on continuous months and we've made a bar chart. When you make a bar chart with month, it puts the label on the very first of the month. It thinks that the label should be on February 1st, May 1st. So what that ends up doing is it moves our label right between the bars, and it makes it really hard to figure out which one that is. The quick and easy way to fix this is to make it a calculation by double clicking it and simply add 15. Months have 30 days. If you add 15 days to it, it'll shift all your month labels to the middle of the bar. Nice trick if you're trying to get things to line up correctly. There's another way to do dual color. I showed you the first two ways, but there's also a really quick way to do it. What if I wanted to color this chart by category and subcategory? You can do this by clicking on category, holding down your control or command key, clicking on shift mode so that they are both highlighted, and hold down control, drag them to color, and it'll automatically color the chart by both of them at the same time. Quick and easy way to do that. Next tip, we're right in the middle. Hopefully my time is going well here. We want to be able to show the headers. If I put this visualization into a dashboard, a lot of times what will happen is this November 2018 number will bump up against the top or even go off the edge of the screen because there's just simply not enough room. How do I make enough room on my dashboard so I can always see the labels? Well, there's a trick for that. You can right-click on the left axis and add a reference line. And actually, before we do that, let me stop for a second. I'm going to create a calculation, and I already have in this case to make things go faster, where I take my sales and I multiply it by 1.1 to add 10% to the sales. I add this to my details, which is right here, sales plus 10% on my details, and I'm going to create a reference line there. Add a reference line for the entire table. You can see my reference line is starting to pop up in the background. I'm going to make it my sum of sales plus 10%, and I'm going to make it the sum. And actually, yeah, let's do it per cell. Per cell is probably a little better. Turn off your calculation and your label. Turn off your line. Right now, I just want to show you where the lines are. You'll notice it's got the line right here, and it's just a little bit above the maximum value. I'm going to turn it off. I just wanted to show you where it was. I'm going to say OK. And what that does is it forces a line 10% above each of the bars. And that way, if you start getting really large bars, like 200,000, that extra 10% will force the other bars down and make room for your label. The other nice part about this is I am not forcing the axis to have a range. If I did that manually, that range would stay there. And if I locked it at 160,000 and we got a 200,000, it would go off the edge of the screen. So this is dynamic. It just simply adds 10% to each of your sales values and keeps everything down 10% from the top of the screen and gives you room for your labels. It's not really a way to show this, but I can show you a trick to finding it. You can add custom shapes and custom colors to Tableau, but you need to know where to put them. To find it quickly and easily, you can go to the File menu and go to Repository Location, and it'll automatically open up a browser window directly to your location. This is very useful if you've got a separate, secondary home drive and you're not using your My Documents folder on your desktop. This is a quick and easy way to identify where Tableau is looking for all of your different resources, for your shapes, which is right here, all the way down to your preferences file are all in my Tableau repository. So that's a quick and easy way to find it. File menu, repository location. I'm at 27. Gene, do we have any other questions popping up?
No.
Nothing coming in. All right, I'm going to keep going.
Keep going.
All right, creating an eye icon. Creating an eye icon is actually very easy. We use eye icons, information icons, I should say, to kind of provide some information or some background about the dashboard, but we've never really shown anybody how to make it, so I thought it'd be useful to show you how we do it. The easiest way to do it is to grab your measure names and drag it to columns or rows. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to drag it to columns. Normally when you do this, there's a title. So you would need to turn off the title for the workbook. And there's also usually some row lines on. If you go to Format, go to your grid lines, you'll need to turn your row divider off. It'll normally look like that. You can see the little lines there. You're just going to want to turn it off. I go into the size and I set it to the middle. It starts out right about here. You'll want to make it a little bigger, obviously. And then whatever you type in the tooltip, and you hover over it, it'll say that. So you can type all the information about your dashboard into this tooltip, move this eye icon into your dashboard, and whenever they hover over it, they have a lot of information about the dashboard, any caveats, anything they need to know, how often the data source refreshes. It's just a nice little tool for dashboard building. So that's how you build that. When you're working with Tableau, you may want to color or change something based on the stuff that's already in here. Now we know we can hold down the control key and drag one of these fields down to color. So I could drag sales down to color. But there's another way to do it. If I wanted sales down here on color, I can hover over it and I get this little triangle in the corner. You hold down the control key and drag it up to color. It'll automatically color by that. You can grab any of the triangles on any part of the visualization, hold down control, drag it to wherever you want to, and it'll add it to that part of the visualization. This one's a little tricky, so kind of bear with me. Wow. This is a visualization showing where profit is positive and negative. Now, I want to color the negative orange and I want to color the positive blue. But if I drag sum of profit down to color, even if I try to make this two colors, it won't split it up for me. It's not doing it the way I want to, and that's because it's continuous. So there's got to be a better way to do it, and there is. So I'm going to drag profit off of there. The easiest way to do this is to duplicate profit. I'm going to hold down Control and drag a duplicate of profit up there. So now we have both visualizations. When you have two pills on columns or rows like this, you'll get two marks cards. So I'm going to go to the first marks card for the top one. That one is blue, which is fine. The bottom one, I am going to change this one to the orange, like that. So now I've got the blue and the orange, but now I need to make the axes line up. And to do that, we go into the axes for profit, and I am going to set it fixed, and I'm going to have it start at 0. That'll move the axes down to 0, and I'm guessing you can guess what I'm about to do on the bottom axes. I'm going to have it end at 0. Like that. That'll force the two lines together. Now there's a catch. What you'll notice is it looks like everything's lined up. Hey, we've got the beautiful chart, but this profit only goes to 800. This one goes to negative 1500. So we're misleading our users. You'll need to lock in the top axis as well now that you've set it like this. So I'm going to lock in the top axis at 1500. And I'm going to lock the bottom axis at negative 1500. That way our scale is the same and we're not misleading our users. You can also hide the title on one of these. So I can go into the axis and remove this profit so it's not showing up twice. And now you've got a nice chart, this blue on top, orange on the bottom. Interesting way to do this. In this particular chart, we have a whole bunch of different orders by subcategory. So, we've got copiers, we got accessories, all this sort of stuff. But I want to be able to create a parameter that will allow me to choose, which I've already done, but I'm going to show you how to do it again. I want to be able to choose binders and have it highlight binders for me, or art and highlight art like this. How can I do this? Well, the first tip that I have to show you is how to create a parameter from a dimension. So in this case, we created the parameter from subcategory. To do that, I simply right-click on subcategory and create a parameter. When you create a parameter from a dimension, it will automatically populate it with all the values from that dimension. I went in and typed a none just to add a none in here. Said OK. I then showed my parameter, which is over here. and then I wrote a calculation based on that parameter. So I have a calculation over here called highlight. Find it. Can I find it? What's the name of it? C subcategory. Right down here. There it is. Subcategory to highlight. This is what my calculation looks like. Is my parameter equal to the dimension that I'm using? That's all there is to it. It'll be true or false. So if it's true, I'm going to turn on bookcases. If it's true, it'll be dark blue. If it's false, it'll be gray. This allows me to use the parameter to highlight certain things in my chart and quickly identify them. So that is 2 tips. One is how to create the parameter, and the other one is how to set up the highlight like that. Context filtering. Okay, so in this case, I'm looking at all of my months of sales over the course of the 4 years for the SuperStore data set. Down below, I have my top 10 customers overall. But I want it so that when I click on December 2017, I want to see the top 10 customers for December 2017, but obviously it's not working. You can see I've got this set as a filter. So, I'm seeing one customer here. That's because the bottom chart is showing the top 10 customers, filtered down to the top 10 customers. And then when I filter it again, it's doing another filter second. So it's showing the top 10, and then if there happens to be a top 10 in that month, it'll show those top 10 people, but I don't want it to do that. I want it to do the other way around. I want it to filter to the month first and then show the top 10. How can I do that? Easiest way to do that is to go to the second chart, take the action, which is the first chart influencing this chart, and make it a context filter. Add to context. What that does is it forces Tableau to do this part first and then do the other filter. This is the top 10 by sales. I can show you this real quick. Top 10 by profit ratio. Sorry, profit ratio. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard now. Now if I click on this month, it's going to filter to that month and then show me the top 10. Filter to this month and then show me the top 10. So it's a quick way to get your filters to work correctly in your charts. How are we doing for time, Gene?
Oh, we got like 7 minutes.
I better go. All right. So right now I have bars and I have labels on the bars and it's showing up within each color, but I don't want it to show up within each color. I want it to label the total. So I'm going to take sales off of the label. And the quick and easy way to do this is to right click on the axes, add a reference line for each, I'm going to go for each cells, and you'll see it puts the average up here at the top of each one. I'm going to label the actual value. So it's showing me the total for each one of these. I turned the line off and all the fill below. If those happen to be on, you turn them off. And what that'll allow you to do is you can have multiple colors in the bar, but have the total up at the top. Fun stuff. Okay, right now I have a map and it's showing colors by state, but I have in my data set something called region. But I want to be able to see the regions as sections. It doesn't know that region is a geographical item. Tableau doesn't know that. It just knows it's south, central, all that sort of stuff. You can actually tell Tableau that it is a geographical region by going to geographical role and create from state. So we know the region is composed of states. We can go down to create it from the state. When we do that, it turns it into a geographical region. We can move it down to the detail and pull out state. And now we can see the map colored by region. So that's how to turn something into a geographical dimension. Okay, next one is jitter. So what we're looking at here are all the different product names within each category. So here's all the bookcases, all the different types of chairs, all the different types of furnishings, and all the different types of tables. I want to be able to see all these dots, but it's really hard to because they're all overlapping. There's a couple quick and easy ways to do this. The first one is to double click up here next to subcategory, and it'll create a calculated field just like we were creating a calculated field from a pill, and just set it to random, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. If you do this, it'll spread the dots out on your chart. Now this is really a quick and easy way to do this, but one of the things I found is it tends to cluster to the left, which is not very useful for me. So there's another way to do it. I'm going to double click on this and edit this. The next one is called index, which will go through and number each row in the data set, and then modulus. Modulus is, if you remember math from early elementary to grade school, it's the remainder of a division. So whatever you divide by, that is how many different columns you're going to get of jitters. So if I divided by 3, for example, and hit enter, mod 3, and you have a table calculation now, you have to tell it what to do the index on. We're going to do the index on the product name. Now I have 3 different columns of data. If I want to jitter it even more, I put in a larger number. Now I have 20 jitters across my chart, and it splits all of these product names into 20 individual columns so you can see them more clearly. 40, show only the outliers. So we have a box and whiskers plot here. We've jittered our stuff. We've got everything out there. It looks very nice, but I only want to see the outliers within each subcategory. There's a quick and easy way to do this. Simply hover over the box, right click, edit it, and hide the underlying marks. That'll hide everything that falls within the normal range and leave you with nothing but the outliers for each category. Okay, there are multiple marks in this visualization, but these right here seem to be falling in the normal range. I'm more interested in the ones that are outside the range. I can click and highlight several of them like this. I can copy them, and then I can create a new sheet, and I can paste them in, and I will be able to see all the information about those outliers really quickly. Nice way to analyze any outliers. Okay, this is another interesting trick that I ran into. I am very interested in seeing my technology. This one right here, the one I've got highlighted. I would actually like to keep this highlight view available for my users. I want them to focus on the technology. How can I do that? Well, once you have something highlighted, if you go up to the legend and you can click on highlight that. Oh, turn on the highlighter, make sure technology is highlighted. There we go. And assign the highlight colors to the palette. That'll actually change your palette to what the highlight looks like. So you highlight it up in the corner. I'm going to undo that a couple times. Make sure highlight options on your legend. Click on technology or whichever one you want. And then once it's highlighted, assign the highlight colors to your palette, and that becomes your new color palette. Got 2 minutes. I'm going to get through a couple more as fast as I can. Again, the dashboard will be available at the end of the session. So you've created your own custom shape, which is a hexagon, and now you want to color it. If you go to color and try to change the color of this, it will not change the color of this. How can I get color to apply on this? When you're using a PNG, it's black. I want to get the color. There's a quick and easy way to do this, and it's simply double click up here to create a new pill. Just set it to whatever you want to. I'm going to say X, and then drag that X up to color, and now you can color it by whatever you want to. Quick and easy way to color something. And am I running out of time?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? This will be available at the end of the session for you to download. I'll make this available to all of you. I have put my notes down in the caption on each worksheet, so you should be able to follow along and follow the last few visualizations as well. I appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us for this IT4U. I'm going to turn it back over to Jean.
All right. And if you want to put any feedback in the chat pod, that'd be great. So thank you so much. And we will send out a recording of this session, I don't know, sometime in the next week. And we also have a resource document that we'll send out that will include a link to the workbook. Is that what you call it?
Yep, the workbook as well as all the other videos.
Yeah. And I think that's about it.